Welcome, everyone, back to the Nation Network. Vince with you here. And today, I want to thank you for joining me for a very special broadcast. This is the first in a series of videos that I plan to bring you here exclusively on the Nation Network, and it's going to feature some of the greatest CAW creators that we know of. Now, I thought about this for a long time, and I knew that I wanted to do something like this that was going to put a spotlight on some of the guys that create the wrestlers that we request of them, that create wrestlers that we're just impressed with so much because they look amazing, and it gives us additional content to keep the game going all year long. But I wasn't going to do this unless I could start it off right, and I wanted to start off with the guy who I personally feel is the best at his craft. A lot of great talent out there. I like to think I make decent stuff as well, but I'll be the first to admit mine doesn't match up to his. He's in a league all by himself. Kicking us off, behind the Creator Studio, ladies and gentlemen, my very special guest. You know him as TUNGLIST. All right, everybody, old school with you here, and I've got one of the greatest creators of all time when it comes to created wrestlers, and I know a lot of you guys have his work. This is TUNGLIST, and I've been looking forward to this opportunity for a long time, my friend. You do some great work. Just looking forward to picking your brain a little bit about some of the stuff that you have put together for the community, and I know a lot of those folks use your stuff, and they all look forward to seeing the next thing you're going to post. So what got you started? When was, like, how long have you been making created wrestlers in the 2K games and maybe even Raw, SmackDown?
Well, I started in SmackDown 1.
Oh, all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah. That's the first game I played.
All right.
I bought every single one since.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. So do you have an art background of any kind?
No art background.
I am surprised to hear that. So you just have a natural talent then. So right now we are working on, well, I'm not going to tell you all who he's working on. You figure it out as it goes along here. One of the things I've been most impressed with, and lately I've been just taking more detailed notice of the stuff that I download from you. And the amount of little details that you put in, especially to things like the hair. I never even thought about really using the hair coloring tool too much. But then I see how you put these little highlights in and stuff. It really does make a difference, gives it depth and all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, it's just been really impressive. But, of course, I think the one thing that everybody talks about, and we're getting to look at some of it right now, and that is your face scans. Where are you finding the pictures to begin with? I mean, we're talking about a guy right now from the 80s, and that's a pretty good picture.
Yeah, just I go to the WWE network and maybe watch some Mid-Atlantic or something. And
so you take a screenshot from that?
Yeah.
Wow.
I find when they're doing the interviews.
Yeah, okay. And then you just map it out yourself after that and do this?
Yeah.
That is still an incredibly clean picture. So what is the very first wrestling match that you have memory of?
Wow. My first memory of watching wrestling was seeing Baywatch when Hulk Hogan was a special guest and Big Van Vader was...
I do recall that.
He crushed basketball.
Yes. So that would have been the 90s then.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw wrestling. And then, you know, like almost 10 years later, I saw Raw. It was Kurt Angle versus Rob Van Dam. I just got hooked from there.
That is how it works. Well, what's more surprising to me, though, is that when you're getting started with like Hogan and Vader, and the majority of stuff that you create is way before them. So how did you get all that? I mean, since you started in the 90s, how did you get all that knowledge of the 70s and 80s?
When I create these guys, I'm basically, I'm almost watching them for the first time. Like the guy I'm doing right now. I don't think I've seen a match with him, but it's just a challenge to create something.
See, that's even more interesting because the fact that you haven't, let's say seen a match, but at the same point in time, when you download or upload these things for other people to download, you've got the entrance down pat, you've got the moveset down pat.
So, yeah, I mean, I just watch. I think, okay, I'm gonna do, like, let's say Pedro Morales. I met him. And it was the first time I was watching him was when I was creating him. So just go, I have to do his entrance. So I just watch his entrance.
Very good.
So it's not like something from memory or something.
So you just changed the face model? Is that what you just did?
Yeah, there's an error when I pick this and I go to the face texture.
And are you using Photoshop to make those face skins, or do you have a different program you like?
Yes, Photoshop.
That's what I use as well.
As you can see, it doesn't come up, so I don't know what to do.
Oh, we got a glitch.
Yeah.
How interesting is that?
Happens all the time.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's part of the charm of the game.
Yeah. Challenge.
The challenge is getting the game to work.
Yeah.
Not playing the game and defeating it. It's just getting it to work.
Yeah. I think I have to create from beginning.
Yeah, maybe. Well, at least you didn't get too far vested into it before it crashed.
Yeah.
So you're in Iceland. That's a pretty good trek from where the majority of us here on the Nation Network.
Yeah.
Refresh me. Iceland, you guys have like, the 6 months a day and 6 months of nighttime, or no? You have regular seasons like...
Yeah, I mean, in the summer it was known that the sun never, there was no night. It was never dark.
Oh, I was right then. Okay, you guys have that cyclic, I can't think of the word, but go through the different sessions like that. Okay. I always wonder how I would do with that, because I work overnight hours here on the East Coast. So, like, I've been up all night, and I'll go to bed in a few hours from now. So I keep thinking to myself, it's hard for me to sleep with the sun out, and I've got to have to paint my windows out and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, if I lived in a place like that, at least 6 months of the year, it would be dark on my time.
Yeah. I just woke up.
That must be a little tough for you guys to adjust to, though, having to sleep half the year during the sunlight. Does that do anything to you? Like, does it keep your body awake or anything?
No, not really.
Guess you get used to it when you've been around it.
Yeah.
So in Iceland, do you have some good pro wrestling to watch live, like local stuff or anything? No wrestling. It's almost unknown in Iceland. Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
There's nobody talks about wrestling.
Holy cow! So how'd you do that then?
A friend of my brother used to watch it, and he got some tapes. He taped the shows that he was watching on, Sky Box Office or something. And he showed it to my brother, and we watched it together. So that hooked that way.
Awesome.
Just by playing the games, I knew about the wrestlers and like that.
See, that's how I learned about the Japanese stars, is by playing like Fire Pro and stuff like that. And with the AAA game that came out a few years ago, that was where I got a lot of the Mexican wrestling stars, where I was familiarized with them a little bit more. I tried watching AAA on TV, but it's all Spanish. I don't speak a word of Spanish. So it just was hard for me to stick with that one.
Yeah, I mostly like to watch Japanese wrestling, like All Japan
Mm-hmm.
90s.
I'm just starting to get into the New Japan stuff that they have now.
Yeah, I don't know about it. I think it's cool in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but um, they're all. I think wrestling today is there are too many fans of wrestling. You know, like super fans. Like I don't like the club, the Bullet Club stuff because it's rehashing the NWO. So
Yeah, they are really
no,
ripping off DX right now.
yeah, and I don't see how people can like it because it's like it's not a rip-off because they are acknowledging that they are doing it, but I don't see the appeal of it.
Well, I think the biggest appeal is in Japan where it's happening, and that's probably because while they're familiar with DX, DX was done in the United States. So they didn't get to, they might have watched it, but they didn't get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
live it. Whereas now it's in their backyard, and here are these Americans, which is, that puts a little bit of a different twist on it, too. When DX did it, they were just this rogue group, but they were also Americans, so they didn't have that. Imagine now, it's kind of, this is a little bit more like the Hart Foundation, where you have the Canadians
yeah,
coming in and, you stupid Americans and this and that. So you have that
yeah.
international thing, which is kind of what they have now with Japan with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. They're the Americans, although the Americans are getting over pretty well.
Yeah. Isn't it that every American that goes to Japan is a heel?
Well, that was the game plan, but they turned out not to be such heels.
Yeah.
So who's your favorite wrestler of all time if you had to pick one?
Wow. I think I have to say Bret Hart.
That's a good
I
choice.
think Bret Hart and Owen Hart match at WrestleMania 10 is my favorite.
That is a great match, too. Owen Hart,
Also,
man.
yeah, he is one of the greatest.
Absolutely. Way too soon. Always wonder what would have been. Owen Hart and Magnum TA, two guys that I always wonder what would have been different if not
Yeah.
for what happened to them.
Except Owen Hart got to show what he could do.
Yep.
More than Magnum.
Yep, absolutely. Magnum was just getting there, man. He was just arriving.
Yeah.
They were going to be putting the title on him within months. And at the same time, what would that have done? Because Ric Flair would not have had that long run that he did.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things about this one I'm liking right now is just changing that face model from what you started with the first time and then you backed out and went with the more Asian look. Completely made it look more like the person we're creating.
Yeah. The model changed it when you have this face template. I think made it much better than the last game.
Yep.
It wasn't in the last game.
Well, I know I've seen a lot of people write it on the community page and stuff, but honest to God, they need to hire you to make some of these characters because the stuff you make oftentimes is far better than the stuff they actually scanned in.
I actually, I don't think they put a lot of work into the guys they create. Like, I don't think, I think Rick Martel, he looks cool, but his skin is too dark.
Right.
And I don't think Larry Zbyszko, I hope he's not in the next game so I can create him, because I don't want to create the exactly how he looks, the same.
Yeah. Lex Luger is another one I wasn't real happy with this year. The hair, for me, I could deal with the face. I think the face is okay. But the hair is just not, it's just not working.
And also some of the moves they put on the guys. It's like, I think Tugboat, no, not Tugboat, Typhoon.
Right.
Has a spinning, jumping neckbreaker. when you run at the guy that I don't think he would ever do.
Well, they probably threw a moonsault in there for him too, but you know.
Yeah.
It could happen.
In a dark match, maybe.
Somebody be dead if it happened, but
Yeah. I mean, Vader did a moonsault, so.
I can see it now. All right, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to be laying down. I'm going to go up to the top rope. I'm going to moonsault this. I'm not taking that.
You must have said the same thing to Vader.
I'll tell you what, Vader, for the big guy that he was, though, he could land that kind of stuff. I mean, he could land that moonsault without hurting people. Even, I mean, his punches are what hurt people, man. He potatoed the crap out of people with the right hand.
Yeah.
But then again, him and Stan Hansen had a lot of feuds over in Japan, so I think he picked up a lot of that habit from Stan.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm always curious with people's PlayStation gamer tags. What is TUNGLIST? What's the meaning behind that?
It's a made-up word. It's music and moon put together. So it would be if it was English, it would be moonsick.
Oh, okay. So you actually created it's kind of like Brad and Angelina being Bradgelina.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, mystery solved. And you really haven't seen a lot of this particular wrestler's matches, is what you're saying, right?
No, I don't think I've seen one.
Wow.
Just,
that's amazing.
I've always seen him with when I was creating Magnum TA. He was also with him, you know.
Yes. Well, he had some really good runs as both a face and a heel. And I remember him very well in the NWA.
Many.
Yep. He was a good, for a bigger guy. He wasn't a small guy. He wasn't huge, but he was definitely bigger than average. And he moved really well.
Okay, I guess I'll find out. If you see my creations and you think, he doesn't have the famous attire when he was, champion or something. That's because I don't know much about the guys.
Well, again, the attire is one of the things that I've always been really super impressed with. Even I think with your Mike Rotundo recently, I'm so used to always seeing him with blue tights. That's all I can remember. And then you had him with the stars, and I'm like, holy cow, yeah, that's right. I forgot all about the stars.
I always thought Mike Rotundo looked like Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, how about that?
The first time I created him, I just found a picture of Bruce Campbell. Photos of that.
Interesting. He looks a little bit like that other guy, too, IRS. Some similarities around the eyes, I've noticed.
I think his name is Mike Rotunda, not Tondo. So it's
could not figure out for the life of me why they did that. Unless it was just about not marketing, but about having the rights to the name. Maybe the WWE somehow copyrighted Rotundo, even though he was Rotundo before he ever got there.
Yeah.
And then he went back to the NWA and did the whole Varsity Club thing, and it was Rotundo with an A. And I'm like, why even do that? We all know his name.
Yeah, exactly. Must have been the copyright thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually even thought about looking that up. I'm curious. Let's see if I can find that right here. There's got to be something on Google for that. Let's see. So I put in the question to Google, why did Mike Rotundo change to Mike Rotunda? It says to me, did you mean why did Mike Rotunda change to Rotunda? You're killing me, man. Let's see if Wikipedia has an answer. Well, probably because his real name is Michael Rotunda. So now the question is, why was it ever Rotundo?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait, here we go. During which time? All right. As a member of the U.S. Express in '84 in the WWE, or F, during which time he would be billed as Mike Rotundo rather than Rotunda. They won the WWF World Tag Team title twice from Murdoch and Adrian Adonis. And with the Sheik and Volkov. Doesn't say why, though. Oh, yeah, and then that run with Golden Boy Dan Spivey. That could have gone without. Well, they don't tell you why, but they do acknowledge it. So you're kind of bulleting the paint onto his hair. I was trying mine with a little bit more of a stroke pattern. I might have to try a new technique, though, because that looks a little smoother than what I was getting out of mine. Now, one of the things I did notice when I started messing with it a little bit more is that if I were to go back in and just change the next color just slightly, it would almost blur. It would give it a really nice change.
Yeah.
Man, it looks amazing. You even have those little crinkles right under the eyes down. So by now, everybody's probably figured out that's the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. I'm still getting over the fact that that face scan is from a screenshot of the network.
And I just, do a lot of Photoshop work.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to. That is amazing. So how long does it generally take you to build one of these up?
I don't know. It depends. Sometimes I'm not happy with the outcome when I, start a match or something.
Right.
I see, his texture is maybe too bright or something. And I have to start again. And sometimes it takes like 3 textures, three maybe. I was doing Terry Taylor, and the template I didn't know what to use. So it's like, should I use this? Maybe, So I'm not happy with him right now, but it's a work in progress.
Indeed. One of the things I do like about creating old school wrestlers is I don't have to spend a ton of time on attire.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably why I do the old school guys, because it's mostly if the face is good.
Right.
That's where you'll spend the majority of your time, because they generally wrestled in, blue trunks or whatever, pretty cut and dry stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't get into the fancy stuff like now, God forbid, if you had to sit there and make Cody Rhodes with his entrance robe, and
Yeah, exactly.
you'd be around for half a day just doing that.
It would be more Photoshop work than the in-game creation, I think.
I just cannot get over that face scan coming from a screenshot. That's something else I figured WWE or 2K, either one, pick your poison, should be doing is providing a decent face scan for characters that aren't in the game. I mean, they've got all this stock photos in the world. I mean, it's not like they don't have the material. They have the rights to it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see how they can make them look, you know, almost perfect, because it's not like they are using this creation mode, you know. They're using the computer.
Yep.
To create the guys. It would be easier, I think.
But even if it's not about the game, like after the game launches, let's say they bring a new guy in and all of a sudden he's big time over, they should just, you know, take decent face shots of him that can then be downloaded by us, and then we can do this. You know, we can take that clean shot rather than have to go look for one on the internet, try and clean it up.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And easy.
If they could. Yeah, exactly. Just upload it as, you know, 2K in the creation, you know.
Yep.
You can download it, blah, blah.
Well, maybe someday they'll think of that. I think it's the one with the lower cheek. I can't figure out what the heck it's changing. It doesn't look to me like it's changing anything.
This one?
I think that's the one.
Is it this?
Yeah, I feel like I move it and nothing seems like it's changing.
Yeah, about the same.
A little bit. Now I kind of see it very little bit.
It's closer to the nose.
Yeah. It's pretty subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
Now, are you looking at any reference material right now other than what's on the screen?
No, I'm just I have a video of from the network.
Okay.
You know, just playing and stopping when it turns, you know.
Got it.
Face. I've also done some work for some guys, you know, just the face, so they can do the attire.
Oh, of their own face, you mean?
No, just if they go, hey, can you do PN News or something?
I got you.
PN News' face, you know. I just.
And then they have to figure out the attire and all that stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw the Z-Man you had up. That was pretty damn impressive. It's like I wish I was running my stuff in that time frame because I would definitely use that, but I'm still prior to Z-Man and the stuff I'm rolling right now. The Piper was awesome, though. Grabbed that one.
I think I'm also getting better at creating because I look at some old face photo capture and I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, we always do get better, though, at anything we do. I mean, if you keep doing it over and over again,
yeah.
You know, I look back at the first video I posted on YouTube 15 years ago doing this online story mode gaming stuff, and it's almost embarrassing. I listen to the voice, and I'm like, oh, my God, it's terrible. But people liked it enough to keep me around doing it all these years, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, night and day, and even now I've got the studio going so I can really get a little creative with cutscenes that I want to make sure appear even though they're not in the game and have them appear through editing and things like that. Man, that looks amazing. That is absolutely ridiculous. So if you're not familiar with Manny, where do you find, like, I mean, how do you know the moveset? Do you just look it up?
I just watch a couple of matches. And,
Okay.
The great thing about creating the old school guys is they almost all of them have the same moveset when it comes to match. Scoop slam and
Yep.
toss.
Well, it's true. I mean, think about it. Who didn't have the figure 4 leg lock? I mean, everybody used the figure 4 leg lock.
Yeah. And a knee drop from the top rope.
Yeah, that was another big finisher. Hey, I remember when the abdominal stretch put people away.
Wow, who used to do that?
Let's see. Pedro used it a little bit. Who was the one that used it as his finisher? Might have been Tony Gurria. No, he had a crossbody, although he might have had both. But there were
Antonio Inoki used to have a. I think.
Did he not also? Stretch. Didn't he do? I think abdominal. He had the octopus.
Leg, yeah.
He had the octopus stretch. Where the leg would come like over the head, and man, that looked brutal.
Yeah.
But even those cross-body blocks and stuff like that, I mean, Ricky Steamboat coming off the top rope with a cross-body press, that wouldn't be a finisher today, but it sure was back then.
You would have to do a corkscrew something.
Yes, because it hurts much more that way.
Yeah. Oh my, the twist.
No, not the twist. I always love, my all-time favorite wrestler is Tito Santana. And I loved his forearm, that flying forearm, which is actually pretty similar to what Manny does. But Tito, man, he put this little pop on it that looked so legit.
Yeah. And I think Terry Taylor also has a good one.
He does. Terry Taylor, one of the most underrated and I think underappreciated wrestlers.
Yeah, I think the Red Rooster, I think the ruined his reputation.
I couldn't get it. I mean, I was watching a lot back then. WWF would come to Florida quite a bit, and they would do those long TV tapings that would start at 7 p.m. and finish at midnight. And they would do one in Tampa, then they would do one in Daytona, and they'd do one in Orlando over the course of 3 days. And me and my buddy, we would go each night to each one of them, and we'd be there for hours and hours and hours. And I remember they did the Saturday night main event in Tampa that run. And pretty sure that was the one where Heenan fired him. And I just remember looking at my buddy, his name was George, and I'm saying, why do they put that stupid gimmick on this guy? He is a fantastic wrestler. He's a good-looking guy. I mean, he can get over. The women will like him. The guys like him. Let him do what he does. What is with that stupid rooster thing? And after that, we got all that other crap. We got Duke the Dumpster Drosy and the Goon and every other stupid gimmick doink.
Yeah, it was a weird time in wrestling because all the gimmicks, all the new gimmicks were something weird.
Repo Man.
How did they think they was gonna get over?
Well, because like now, Vince lost touch with the audience. This is history repeating itself right now. That's what's happening today. He still doesn't get it. He thinks we're still... He's got the best physical talent anyone's ever had. And he's got the worst story writing and too much of it.
Yeah, I think he needs to take a break from the business.
Well, that's going to happen one way or another sooner or later, but I'm going to be curious. I mean, when I look at what Triple H does with NXT, he clearly has a much better feel for what is going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And he, the fact that he brought back the War Games, he has an appreciation for the past.
Yeah. But the sad thing is, when the NXT guys go over to the main roster, they almost drown in the because there's too many stars, and they can't make all of them stars. So some of them become, almost like jobbers.
Almost.
Like Apollo Crews, they were like, "Oh, this guy is great, man." So just a month, then he's a jobber.
Yeah, I mean, and not for anything. Look, I don't see Apollo having the personality to get much further than mid-card. Maybe that can change.
But he should be, in the Intercontinental, contention. You should be fighting for the Intercontinental Championship.
Maybe. I see the
maybe.
Intercontinental title. I'm kind of like with Miz on that one. That's my favorite belt. It always has been. Again, Tito Santana. That title belt has always gone to the worker, the guy who really gives you the best matches every night, not your big guy. Like Hogan.
Yeah.
Hogan had the world title, but he was not the best match on the card ever. And if Santana was fighting Morocco on that card, that was the match.
I mean, Hogan would never have been Intercontinental Champion.
No, not based on that. I mean, heck, they gave the Intercontinental title to Flair in his 50s, but guess what? Flair was still out working half the guys half his age.
Yeah, exactly. I think Bret Hart is the example of how the Intercontinental guy,
Yep.
the workhorse,
Bret Hart
becoming the world champion.
Yep, Mr. Perfect. And how Mr. Perfect didn't win the world title, I don't know.
Yeah, it must have been politics or something.
I don't think so. I mean, it's one of those deals where he didn't need it. He was over.
Yeah, exactly. But it was always the they were always talking about hey, we got this new guy. Let's show how good he is. How about Mr. Perfect?
Right.
And he was so often in that spot that I think he never got to the main storylines.
Now, you know that the Mr. Perfect gimmick wasn't supposed to be his. That was supposed to be, I believe, Ted DiBiase.
Ah, okay.
I'm almost positive DiBiase was supposed to get the Mr. Perfect gimmick, and then at the last minute, the $1 Million Man thing came up instead.
Ah, okay. I think I don't think he could have been a better Mr. Perfect.
No, I don't either. I think everything worked out the way it should have, but I tried in my mind to imagine what that would have looked like, because DiBiase was a phenomenal wrestler.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, his matches were good.
Underrated. He's very underrated.
Now, Fernandez ran with Ravishing Rick Rude for a while there. They called themselves Ravishing and Raging. That was the name of the tag team.
Ah, okay.
And when they came into the NWA, I was like, at that point, we had already known Manny because he'd been a good guy and just turned bad. And Rude we had known from just in general. He did a lot of Texas wrestling and stuff like that, but he had already had a pretty good name. I just, at that time, Rock and Roll Express were hot. They were the tag team champions, and you knew these were the next guys coming for them. But I was like, yeah, they're going to come for them. They're not going to get the belts, and then the next team after that will get the belts. And I remember it was on regular TV, TBS, and the match went like 45 minutes long. And then they won. I'm like, what? But they were kind of like the Hollywood Blondes. They got over in spite of themselves. They weren't really supposed to, but then they did.
I haven't seen that much with Brian Pillman. I've seen his matches with Susan van der Liger.
Yeah, all those are great.
And but I haven't seen why they call him so underrated.
Pillman, especially early on, I enjoyed his early matches probably more than his later matches. I remember, and a lot of people, so many people seem to think that, Lex Luger sucked. He was not a wrestler, blah, blah, blah. I always thought Luger had good matches, and I saw a bunch of them, and I was always a Lex Luger fan. Whether he's a good guy, bad guy, didn't matter. I really enjoyed watching him. And he had one feud while he was the U.S. champion in the NWA with Brian Pillman. And at that time, Luger had had the title for about a year, maybe a little more even. And Pillman was relatively new on the roster, maybe 6-8 months old. And those matches were good. They were really good. Pretty sure they were featured on one of the Great American Bash shows. If I'm not, it could have been Starrcade. I forget. One of the two big ones. But man, they did some good stuff together.
I'll have to go check that out.
See, I grew up in New York, so all we could watch back then was WWF. That's all there was. And you didn't have the internet. The only thing you had was wrestling magazines, and I would read those, and I'm like, who's this guy? Who's this Dusty Rhodes? Who's this Ric Flair? And reading about them is kind of cool, but it's not the same. And Dusty, every once in a while, would do a one-off appearance at Madison Square Garden, so you at least got to see him live once in a blue moon and have a clue who he was. Whereas Rick, you never saw him. So when I moved to Florida and all of a sudden here these guys are, and it's like totally different. It was right around 86 that I moved down here, so Barry Windham had just left the WWF, and I'd seen him, of course, lose the tag team titles at WrestleMania and all that stuff. And now all of a sudden he's wrestling Ric Flair for the world title, and Windham was always one of my guys, man. He's right up there with Tito as one of my top two favorites.
Yeah, I think I think him and Steamboat are my favorites.
Yeah, Steamboat.
As to in-ring work.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you've seen the Steamboat Flair matches, right? When Steamboat and Flair changed the title back and forth?
Yeah, the 2 out of 3 and
right.
all that.
They had like 3 matches. One was a Clash of Champions. One was maybe Starrcade. I can't remember what. One of the pay-per-views. And then I think another Clash to wrap it up. And all 3 of those matches were gold. That was when Steamboat had a win with the butterfly suplex bridge.
Yeah.
He was using that as his finisher for a short time.
One time he was on the ropes or something.
Yep. Oh, yeah, the foot was underneath, Ric Flair's foot. And the referee, that's when he won the title.
Yeah.
He had his wife and kid coming down to the ring. His son was doing pretty well for the little while that he was in the NXT until the injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richie Steamboat. I thought he was going to do pretty well, but then that injury just ended it.
It's weird with the third generation and second generation guys that they always keep the name.
Yep. Well, it's marketing.
Michael McGillicuddy.
Oh God.
That was a bad example,
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I don't even mind. The fact that it's not Joe Hennig, I don't get. I think you're missing the boat. Hennig is a pretty big deal and kind of sells itself, but whatever. But at the same time, Bray Wyatt, that works.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it would work if they would let it.
Yeah. I think it grew old for me, at least. It was because he kept losing.
Right. They kill it. This is what they do better than anything. Kill it.
That's their specialty.
It does appear that way. I remember when the Ascension came over, and I'm like, finally, we're gonna, because the tag team division was a little weak, but it was starting to get better. And then they bring the Ascension in, and I was like, okay, here's the first legitimate new version of the Road Warriors. There's been a lot down the line, but this is the first one that I felt was legit. They did a great job in NXT. They built them up as monsters. They kind of got a little bit screwed out of the titles and didn't get a fair return, whatever, so that they kind of lose but keep some credibility. And then the first night in the WWE on Raw, what do? They job them out to the 50-year-olds DX.
Yeah, that's horrible.
I'm like, what the hell, man? Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg, really?
Yeah, exactly.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. They built up the guys so good in NXT. Then they blow it with the main roster.
Now these little, I'm sorry, these icon things that you have up here, like the Tito Santana hat and all that, do you make those?
Sometimes I find maybe a picture or an interview, so I just cut it out.
Wow.
On Photoshop,
Holy cow.
As you can see,
so like that Tully Blanchard, the TB for Tully Blanchard there, That was something that you cut out of an image?
No, that's just Photoshop.
Wow. I thought you were actually drawing them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually drawing these ones, like this and this and all this stuff. But the complicated photos, like Tito Santana, that's a cutout and a little bit of Photoshop. Like this one, maybe I'll go back to work on it because I can't find a good picture of his tattoo. But from far away, it looks, I think, good.
I didn't even remember he had a tattoo until you just mentioned it. Gotta love opacity.
Yeah.
Really blend things together sweet with that.
Game changer.
Indeed. So what are you hoping to see in 2K19?
I hope they do something more with the hair, you know, where you can shorten it or maybe cut it.
Yes. Which we used to be able to do.
Great. Yeah, exactly. I don't know why they dropped it.
Well, because that was THQ.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff we could do with, and I hate to say it because, man, I'll tell you, I hated THQ. I would blast them all the time. And when 2K bought the company or the contract out, I was like, okay, finally, here's a company that's got some money behind it that understands sports games or whatever. And man, was I wrong.
Yeah, exactly. They had a rough start with the games. There was one create mode that I had to stop playing the game because it was so bad. I think it was 2015, I think.
That was was that 2K? That would have been like their first year then.
Yeah, it was the first game in PlayStation 4, I think.
Yep.
And you could barely mold the face, so I thought it was horrible.
Was that the first year that you could bring in photo scans?
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought that was cool, the photo scan, but the face texture and the face molding stuff, it was horrible. So the texture, face and face textures were almost pointless. But the worst create mode in any game, I think, you know, besides the first 2 or 3, was SmackDown versus Raw.
The first one?
Yeah, the first SmackDown versus Raw, it was terrible. The create mode.
Those older ones, I'll tell you what. I look back at some of that, and I'm like, dang, I remember when we used to think that was decent. Look at those graphics. I remember back in the day. Man, look at those graphics, and they're all these chunky-looking
yeah.
marshmallow men. And guys, if you haven't checked it out yet, One Man Gang, is that up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to grab that, but I'm going to. I saw the pictures of it in the community page, and holy cow.
It was hard to do his hair because he has a mullet mohawk.
Yep.
And there's only one in the game that is a mullet mohawk, but it has the Road Warrior animal sides on it. So I just painted that skin color. I think it's not this one. This is Mr. T.
Right. Oh, the rooster. See, that's what pisses me. I was like, all right, if you want to put that in there, that's fine, but give us the option to lose the rooster part.
Exactly.
Because
yeah,
that hairstyle right there, oh my God, like you did the Buddy Landell. How good would it have been to have that hair?
Exactly, yeah. This hair is awesome.
It is, except for that stupid.
It would be cool if I could shorten it.
Or, like I said, remove that stupid part.
Yeah.
That wouldn't even be bad for Manny. Yeah, that's actually better. Because he had the crow's feet. Or the widow peak, rather.
I mean, with his hair, it would be great if I could shorten it, because he doesn't have it that long, but it's the perfect hair. Only if I can shorten it, like...
A little bit, but...
Yeah, a little bit.
Honestly, I think it just looks amazing, so...
What I also do is I use a lot of logos to create... to fill up some places, like this one. I try to use as many logos as I can. Fill out the maximum.
That's a clever little trick right there. So I tend to fill those in with like my Wahoo McDaniel with more of the oval shape or something like that. But that there gives it texture.
And also the emboss, so however you say it.
The emboss, yeah. Because that'll give it a little bit more texture as well.
Yeah.
Watching the master at work. This is entertaining for me. So a few months back, one of the viewers on my channel kept on bombarding me with, hey, can you ask him to upload this one again? Can you ask him to upload this one again? Why don't you ask him, man? Why I got to be the pain in his ass? And I remember you saying, it's like, where is he seeing my stuff? I was like, oh, yeah, it's all over my channel, man.
Yeah.
I keep on deleting my work, and I said, never mind, his is better. Mine's got to go. So I'm thinking when 2K19 comes out, I might just focus a little bit on my Rise Wrestling, which features today's wrestlers, but booked the way I would book them.
Yeah.
And I'll wait till TUNGLIST has like 12 up, and then I'll just download all those. I think one of my secrets this year I'm going to try differently is the very first creation I make is going to be something from the contemporary wrestlers list. Whoever the, more popular guy is that wasn't in the game or something like that. Maybe like a Kenny Omega kind of thing. Yeah. Because that will get a lot of downloads quickly. And that'll open up all the categories. You'll get to Diamond much faster.
Yeah. I think if you create CM Punk, you'll definitely get a lot of those.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what always goes. The CM Punks are always in the top 3 every year. And for some reason, Jeff Hardy, even though he's in the game.
Yeah, I mean, they uploaded him, before the DLC came out. People probably still keep downloading him.
Oh, well, you just got the 5-minute warning. So the thing with share play is you can do it for 1 hour.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. Usually use the eyebrows and put much opacity on it, because the texture already has.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's just for texture.
Yep. And then by putting the eyebrow in there, it'll give it that little bit of depth.
Yeah.
Gosh dang it, that looks so much like him. Wow. Well, guys, that is how it's done. So you've essentially created Manny Fernandez from scratch in less than an hour.
Yeah, it usually takes an hour.
That's,
Except if
that is pretty impressive.
you know, the Photoshop time with some of the guys, you know, like I created Perry Saturn, and I don't think I'm gonna finish him because all of his tattoos.
Oh, that's work.
I can't find good pictures.
Yeah, that is work.
Yeah.
Well, that and CM Punk. I mean, there's good pictures of CM Punk, I'll say that. But it's still tough matching all that up and blending it in and making it look not clunky.
Yeah, the tattoos, yeah. I usually go just download some textures from previous games. You know, if I would create CM Punk, I would do that. Because they have the perfect tattoos.
Yep.
And I would keep the Pepsi logo in.
Yeah, that's the other good thing, too. We don't have to worry about the copyright.
Yeah.
The Cobra and the Pepsi logo.
Yeah.
And there it is. All right, well, our time is almost going to expire here, so I want to thank you so much for allowing us to take a look at how you do what you do, because it is amazing. And on behalf of the community, I know a lot of these guys, and myself included, have really appreciated your work because it is awesome, and it makes us feel like it's actually game created. So keep doing what you do, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. And I wouldn't do this without the community. I would probably be creating some other
Excellent.
2003 guys or something.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the final product when this is done. I know it's going to be completely amazing. We got to do this again once 2K19 comes out.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep doing this. And it would be nice to, you know, it's nice to get the recognition.
Well, you earned the recognition. There's no doubt about that. And I meant what I said. As far as I'm concerned, the best out there. I have not seen anything that wasn't awesome. All right, we are getting kicked out of the share play, so we're going to wrap it up with that. Thank you, TUNGLIST, so much for being my guest on the first ever Behind the Creator Studio here on the Nation Network.
Thank you.
Have a great day, my friend. I'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.